All right, we have our first edition here of, well, Happy Hour Flight Edition. And what we're going to do here, because everyone knows now, hopefully you know by now, Matt Boldy, big boy money, got the bag, 7x7, $49 million for, what is he, 21, 22?
Cha-ching.
We'll talk about that a little bit more in the Wild segment. But what we're going to do here is go over 4 beers that aren't necessarily the exact same style, but at least similar, category, flavor palette. Like, we're not going to be mixing sours and IPAs and stouts, right? We're going to go through all 4, and with each one, we're going to tell you what the beer is. We're going to give you a little bit of a review and kind of talk through the flavor palette. But also with each beer, we're going to talk about one player that has been impacted by this Matt Boldy extension being done. Another friend of ours, been a while since we had them jump on the show. I might have to arrange something again. Modist Brewing Company. Isha, pop that one up to your camera. We have the Honeycomb Catacomb. It is a honey double porter. Incredible can art on this one too. This is one that anyone listening might have heard me drink a few times in past episodes. Obviously, Isha was in Canada at the time, didn't have a chance to enjoy it, so I'm really excited to see what his opinion is on this one. So here we go. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Wow. Like, it's like you grabbing a honeycomb and just taking a bite out of it.
Honeycomb
Wow.
to a T.
To a T. To a T. And very cool can art, like you mentioned.
And like a clever name too. Honeycomb Catacomb. I like plays on words like that. Kind of a similar way I'd describe it to the first one, but
Sweeter for sure.
it has more sweetness. It's got the honey, but it's not heavy. Like, this is not one that you like drink and like you need to take a break because it's a meal. Like, this is a really thin beer compared to what you'd expect.
Yeah, despite
looks.
the profile that you see here, it actually is a lot clearer for a darker beer than, as we can see with the pour here. Than you would expect just seeing it like in the glass. So there you go. Yeah, I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed with this one.
This one is weirdly like one of the only beers where I let my mom try one. I brought it over. I don't know if it was for a holiday or what the hell it was for. She's like, where did you buy this? So obviously that speaks very highly to, I mean, we all know Modist Brewing. Like Waconia, there's not many misses. So I don't know. There's not much more I can say. I'm going to keep on sipping on mine while Isha takes over.
Yeah, we'll get into the next player here, and that is Jordan Greenway. Now, let's rewind a little bit. Back when Greenway and Cunnin were the two young guns joining the Wild, roster was kind of like they don't have enough room to keep both of them. And both of them were progressing well, maybe not as quickly as everyone expected or wanted, but it put the Wild in a situation where they had to choose one. They ended up going with Greenway, and honestly, it was the right decision because the next season, the instant chemistry with Joel Eriksson Ek, with Marcus Foligno, the Jeek line was formed, and last year had his best season. Yeah, just over 30 points. He didn't like break the bank in points. However, his contribution to that line and how that line's contribution to the team was one of the biggest reasons, outside of Kaprizov, obviously, that the team was able to have such a successful season and, make the playoffs, and actually gave us a lot of confidence that they were going to do well in the playoffs, which never seems to be the case at the end of the day. Shout out or Minnesota sports. Rest in peace, Vikings. But this season, and I'm not dogging on him when I'm picking him here, everybody. He's faced injuries this year, and that is the reason is, obviously his playing time is down, his game appearances is down, and his production is down. I mean, when you're nursing that many injuries, when you're so inconsistent in and out of the lineup, you're just not going to have the success. The line's not going to have the chemistry that they did, and ultimately, it's not his fault that he's been, struggling with injuries. However, the team's still going to have to pay him because they know what he can bring when he's injured or when he's injury-free if they want to keep him around. He's going to want a little bit more than $3 million. It's tough to fit that for a third liner moving forward. So,
But he's got what, 2 more years making that?
No, of course, but still, like if
It does matter.
If they want to extend him, if they want him to be part of that winning core that they're hoping to see in a couple of years, 2-3 years, I don't think he fits under that umbrella. And there's probably going to be guys within the organization who can fill in his role. Let's be perfectly honest. It's not like he's a unicorn out there. He's just a very good third liner. So Jordan Greenway, that's the player who I think is going to be also affected by this Boldy signing.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to defend him and say that he will be around. I just do think that, like, him wanting more, at that point, the cap opens up like crazy because
But is it worth it?
Lose the bouts. Right. But guess what? You got 2 more years to evaluate that. Where I stand, though, everyone basically looked and said, wow, because of how the Eck line kind of faltered when he was hurt earlier this year, that was everyone's proof. Like, oh my gosh, Greenway does actually have an impact. And I was very much of that belief. He's been back. It hasn't been that much different. They've had good games, right? But I'd argue that the fourth line has been more of a catalyst for a lot of things this year than they have. Now, last couple of weeks, not the case. Last couple of weeks, fourth line's been questionable, but there was a good stretch there where that line was carrying things. And I do think that the decision on Greenway is going to have kind of an inverse relationship with Brandon Duhaime. I've been on record a bunch, and this is an honorable mention of sorts, because I do think it's kind of a 1-for-1. I don't think you're keeping both guys.
Yeah.
I think both fit a similar profile. I think Guerin has proven now with what he's done last year and this year, bringing in the psychopath last year, right? Delorier. Yes. Bringing in Reeves now, he needs that physical electric presence on his fourth line. And right now we're pretty comfortable with Dewar and Shaw being the other two that ride with that. So I see Duhaime or Greenway being the guy that's that third piece of the Eck line. I wonder which one you can get more value for, because I think Duhaime has played better of late. I think Greenway has more promise when you just see how big he is, how he can skate.
And a resume.
And yes, a resume. He's got a pretty palatable $3 million deal for the next 2 years. I think he fetches you more value, but if you decide, no, we are sticking with this guy, even with some of the recent disciplinary things on top of his injury issues, then Duhaime is a guy that I think you can get an okay return for. Throwing him to the bottom 6 of a contender, like that is the kind of guy that a lot of teams are going to want. And it's one of those like rental plus situations, right? He is a rental, but he's an RFA, and you can kind of feel out and figure out if he is the right guy. So I think one of those two is undoubtedly gone. I don't know if that happens by the trade deadline or if it happens this summer, but I think with this and having to tighten up the money, Greenway might be the better option because he fetches more of a return with the upside and you're skimming more money off. But we'll see where that goes.
Sorry, Z.
I love Duhaime. It makes me sad. Florida man. Florida man.
By the time I get Z's jersey, it's going to be gone.
Or are you still trying to get that for him?
Anyways.
All right.